What's up, what's up? Welcome back to the Rat Cave. It's Ratzi here for DJKIT, and today I'm looking at a long time coming this video, to be fair. It's the Reloop Mixon 8 Pro. Now, as I said, this review has been a long time coming, and that's because it's a bit of a weird one, this controller. So it got announced, but then to get out into like the public so that like people could actually buy it, it took a little while. So it was announced at the NAMM show, like not the one that's gone, the one before. And my worry with this product is that people almost forgot about it because a lot has happened since this controller has been released. But that, I think it's really important for me to do this review and to let you know how good and how powerful this Mixon 8 Pro controller actually is, particularly if you're a mobile DJ, because it ticks a lot of boxes there. And let me say, I mean, I'm hopping straight to my conclusion really here, but this is by far the best DJ controller on the market that works with Algoriddim's DJ app. So anyway, look, let's get into it. So here we go then, the Reloop Mixon 8 Pro. As I mentioned, this works with Algoriddim's DJ app, that is Algoriddim's DJ AI, which you of course do have to have a subscription for, but it actually does work with Serato DJ Pro as well, and that is a hardware unlock. And actually a fantastic feature about this controller is that you can run both of those softwares simultaneously. So as you can see here, I've got DJ Pro on my phone, I've got Serato on my laptop, and they're running both at the same time. DJ Pro there, Serato there. Now the way that this works is this iPhone here is connected into USB-A, and the laptop running Serato is USB-B. If you're using this controller with an iOS device, it always has to be in USB-A, or there is actually a USB-C connection on this Mixon 8 as well. This being an older iPhone, I am having to use the camera adapter because it's a lightning input on the phone. But if you've got a newer iPhone, then of course it's USB-C to USB-C. There's no need for this adapter. And actually when you've got it plugged in on the USB-C input, it charges the phone at the same time. Me being a dinosaur, my phone that I use with the Algoriddim app is an iPhone XR. And in fact, I do apologise that it looks a little bit pathetic, this iPhone next to this controller. It's fine when I use this with the smaller controllers when I'm using the DJ app, but the screen isn't massive. Hopefully you can see a little bit of what I'm doing. But I do just want to say at this point, I tried to use this Mixon 8 with my missus' iPad, but it was an older generation of iPad. I can't remember which one it was, but it wouldn't let me get the latest version of the Algoriddim DJ app because I couldn't update the iOS on the iPad to use with the latest version of the DJ app that is compatible with this Mixon 8. So I did try with the iPad, but yeah, that was a no-go. But that's worth checking out if you are planning to use this controller or any of the new controllers that work with the Algoriddim DJ app. Check that your iPad is compatible with the latest version or whatever version is needed for whichever controller you've got. And actually as well, with this controller, you can see at the top here, it's got this slot for an iPad. Worth saying that this phone here that I've got, it doesn't actually fit. That's why I've got it on this on a stand here instead. It doesn't actually fit in this slot. But I reckon if you're using this Mixon 8 Pro with Algoriddim, you've probably got an iPad to fit in that slot anyway. So I've got Serato and Algoriddim plugged in. I do believe that the people who watch the DJKIT YouTube channel are more Serato users, but I'm going to be touching a little bit on both. But the thing is, the great thing about this dual compatibility and running both of the software simultaneously is, of course, if your laptop dies or if Serato dies and you're using it with Serato. I've said this a million times before, Algoriddim's DJ app is a no-brainer for me to have on a phone in my pocket, just in case your laptop dies. Plug your phone in and the party can continue. Anyway, in terms of using this Mixon 8 with Serato, I mean, it's a 4-channel controller. You can then put this controller up there with your Rain 4, which is obviously 4-channel Serato. Your Pioneer DJ DDJ FLX10 4-channel works with both Serato and Record Box. And this Mixon 8 Pro is definitely up there in terms of quality with those two controllers as well. So look, let's look at some of the features on this controller. So let's start with effects, because this Mixon 8 is the first DJ controller ever that's got 4 effects paddles, 1 per channel. We've of course seen other 4-channel controllers with effects paddles, but like the Rain 4, but it's only got 2 paddles and you have to sort of, you know, layer it up and everything like that. On this Mixon 8, you've got a paddle per channel, which is absolutely amazing, perfect for when you're going back to back. And let me just say, actually, about this Mixon 8, there is a lot of this controller which I feel has been massively built around the fact that you can go back to back with another DJ, like the dual compatibility, you know, running 2 softwares at the same time, the layout of the controller as well. I'll get onto that in a minute. But anyway, so with the effects, the controls are at the top here, and this is a real controller layout, you know. We see more these days of like a club layout with controllers where the effects, you know, are down in the bottom right hand corner where they are on a club mixer or whatever, and the effects controls are like on a knob up here. Oh, just to say at this point as well, all of the effects on this controller are software based. They're not built in. So if you're using this with external hardware, the effects won't work. But yeah, the layout, you know, the effects are up here. You've got 3 different effects per channel. This, to turn the effects on, you do it, you actually have to do it 2 ways, right? So you arm the effect up here. So now that effect 1 is on, and then you hit the paddle like that. So, you know, they're all post fader, which is great. That's the Serato Echo, by the way. And the same thing applies with the effects within DJ. And actually, speaking of the DJ software, you've got a great feature on this controller where you can apply the effects to a certain element of the neural mix. So for example, in this tune, if I only want the echo, like I just played there, if I only want that to be applied to the drums of this tune that I'm playing here, you press shift and you hit this button here. There's a little drum icon on there. And now when I turn this echo on, it only affects the drums, right? So, you know, that's really powerful if you're using that on a vocal or on the instrument section or whatever it is. And I don't know if you spotted there, so you've got the 3 different effects here. This knob is how much of the effects you want in the mix. And then this knob here is the parameter, so it changes the size of the beats and stuff like that. So then moving over to the left of the effects section, you've got full size 100mm tempo sliders, or pitch faders I call them. Unfortunately, there's no center click, which I am a big fan of that. I like to have the click at 0%, but there is an LED that lights up so that you know when you're on 0%. And I want to say about these tempo sliders, they're really smooth. There's not a lot of a dead zone around the 0% either, which is great. But yes, I'm a big fan of them. It's nice to have the full size tempo sliders. But I mean, I know I said it's to the left of the effects over this side. It's actually to the right of the effects over this side, and that is because this controller is fully symmetrical. It's mirrored, which Reloop swear by this, right? If you look into their other controllers, they're all mirrored. And again, going back to what I said earlier, we are used to these days controllers laid out like sort of, you know, 2 CDJs and a mixer. So, but with this controller, again, I think leaning more towards the way that this is ideal for back-to-backs, you've got the play and the cue button in the bottom right-hand corner here, in the bottom left-hand corner. Sometimes with symmetrical controllers, the cue and the play buttons are actually here instead, but they're on the outside on this mixer. And I think that's because if you've got one DJ playing on one software over this side and another DJ playing, you know, you're not sort of crossing over or whatever. So yeah, really worth noting about this. We don't see this very often anymore, like fully symmetrical mirrored controllers. But yeah, you know, if you put a mirror down the middle, that's the way that it is. Am I a fan of that? It's not my way to work. But my muscle memory is, of course, turntables and CDJs. But if you're on this, or you're used to a symmetrical layout, or you've got this, of course, it's not going to take you long to sort of go over there and know where everything is, and be pressing the wrong buttons or anything like that. So then underneath the tempo sliders, you've got your little bits and bobs here. You've got your key lock button, silent cue button, massive touch. I know a lot of DJs are a big fan of silent cue, so nice to have a dedicated button on this controller. Then under here, this is where you've got your looping section. Now, again, we are sort of used to seeing these days, I mean, a looping button, sure, like an auto loop or whatever, but we're sort of used to seeing maybe a looping knob instead of a button. But nice to have it on this controller, because you've got, so if I just get this tuned to the hot cue there, so with the auto loop, right, that is now on this LED, little LED lights under here, it tells you the size of the loop. So that's on a 4-beat loop, and then if you use these, it doubles or halves it if you go that way. Now, the way that this is, you've got the LED telling you there, but then if you get to 32, which is the maximum, all of them turn on. And then if you go under, that's 1, if you go under 1 and you start going into the halves and stuff like that, it flashes. So, you know, you still know where you're at. So, you know, it's good to have that little visual LED bar so that you know which size loop you're on without having to look at your software or your screen or whatever it tells you on there. So then underneath the looping section, you've got the parameter buttons here, and then the sync button underneath that as well. So then under the sync button here, you've got your cue and your play buttons. They're nice and big and nice and bright, actually. To the right of them, or to the left of them over here, you've got your 8 performance pads. What I say about these performance pads, they are brilliant. They're nice and big, they've got a great rubbery feel, and they are velocity sensitive. So, you know, I'm not going to delve into all of the ins and outs of the Algoriddim, the features in the Algoriddim DJ app, but you know, you can do all the looping stuff and the finger drumming and the keyboard stuff within the app. You know, obviously there's the sampler in Serato as well, if you're like a trigger happy sampler and stuff like that. But yeah, they're velocity sensitive. They're so bright, man. I don't know if this overhead sort of camera does it justice about how bright it is, but they're a great size. They're full RGB, and you've got 8 per channel. Now there's 8 different performance pad modes, with the primary being hot cue, loop roll, saved loop, and sampler. And actually, quick one about the sampler, there is a dedicated sampler volume button here, which for me, as I'm sure a lot of you have seen in the past with these videos, when I'm doing an example of the sampler and I scare the bejesus out of myself because an air horn, a really loud air horn comes out of nowhere, it's great to have that sampler volume, especially as well with the Algoriddim app, you know, using all of the bits and bobs and the samples that are built in and within Serato. So as I mentioned, what's written on the controller is what it is in Serato. It does differ slightly when you're using this with DJ. The top hot cue, loop roll, save loop, and sampler, they are the same in both softwares, but when you get to the second performance modes, which you get to, by the way, by double clicking, so that's hot cue. Now we're in pitch play, it's the same thing in Algoriddim. The second function in Serato here is the save flip. In DJ, this is instant pad effects. So you've got all of those pad effects within the Algoriddim DJ app. Now the third one along, this is a slicer. That's the same on both softwares. But over here, the sampler, as I said, the secondary of this when you're using this with Serato is a scratch bank. When you're using this with the DJ app, the pad modes turn into the neural mix. Neural Mix, of course, is the Algoriddim DJ app's answer to stems. It came out before Serato stems, actually, worth sort of saying big up to Algoriddim for that. But yeah, there's 3 elements. You've got the drums, the instrument, and the vocal. So when you're using this Mix on 8 with the Neural Mix pad mode with DJ, the top 3 solo the element. So for example, in this track, if I just want the vocal, then I hit this top button. If I just want the drums, I hit this button, etc, etc. And then the bottom pads here remove that element, so they do the opposite. So for example, if I want the vocal out, I take that pad out. If I want the drums out, but I want the instrument and the vocal still, I take that out. So just to say about this controller, there's no dedicated stems pad mode on this, and that is because, like I said, it came out before all of the stems stuff, or it was announced before all of the stems stuff came to light with Serato and everything like that. Of course, you get dedicated stems pad mode on every controller now that works with Serato. Of course, you can put Serato stems on this controller by just replacing one of the pad modes. Slicer, who knows how to use a slicer. Also worth saying, in DJ you can assign the neural mix on the EQ with the drums, melody and the vocal going across the EQ pots here. You can't do that on Serato. You can't put Serato stems on the EQ. That only works with the neural mix when you're using this with the DJ app. Alright, so let's talk about the Jog Wheels now. Now, as you can see on this Mixon 8 Pro, these are controller size jogs. So think more along the Prime 4, XDJ, RX3 kind of size. And in fact, let's measure them. Get the old trusty out. So as you can see, the top of the jog is like 5.5 inches. But the total, including the sides, is about 6 inches, just over 6-inch jogs. Obviously, these aren't full-size CDJ style jog wheels. They are controller size. Unfortunately, as well, there isn't a jog adjust, which, you know, I think that that's quite an important thing on DJ controllers because everyone has their different taste of jog resistance. Actually, though, I do want to say about the jog wheels, they are a pretty good feel. They're a good resistance. You get a good spin back on them. They're of course touch capacitive, but you can turn off vinyl mode up here if you prefer. That's also a slip button, by the way, so you can, and the tune will keep on going. But yeah, the great thing about these jog wheels, this is the first time that Reloop have ever put in jog displays on one of their DJ controllers. They're pretty minimal. There's no like artwork image in there or anything, but they do show you some good stuff. So you've got needle position, track time, pitch range, and the key lock on the in-jog displays. And this is the same whether you're using this with the DJ app or over here with Serato. You can see you've got the same kind of display on there. And obviously in-jog displays are always really helpful on a 4-channel controller like this, where you've got the layers. So, you know, you've got option to go from deck 1 to deck 3, pressing that button, and deck 2 to deck 4. I don't have anything loaded in 3 or 4 because I've got this split over 2 different softwares. But, you know, it's nice to have the in-jog displays if you're being clever and using that layer function. So now, speaking of 4-channel, let's take a look at the 4-channel mixer. Everything is sort of where you would expect it to be. You've got a gain knob up the top, high, mid and low EQ. The only thing is about these EQ knobs is that they're pretty dark, actually. Like the indicator on the top is like a sort of dark grey. So, you know, to see, I mean, you've obviously got the click at the 12 o'clock point, so you do know where you are in terms of EQ, but I don't know about that dark, you know, they're quite hard to see. But yeah, underneath the EQ, you've got your filter knob. Now, this is built into the controller. So actually, when you're using this with external CDJs and media players, turntables or whatever, the filter does work. And then under there, you've got the effects toggles or paddles. And then, yeah, you've got the faders here. Underneath, you've got the through, which turns the crossfader on or off. And actually, speaking of switches, let's go up to the top. You've got USB-A, phono line and USB-B, and then you've got your load button up here, and if you double click that, then it instant doubles, so it puts whatever tune you've got on the other channel on that channel. So I did mention it there, this Mixon 8 Pro, all 4 channels have line inputs for using with external CDJs or media players. Channel 1 and 2 are the phono line switchable, so if you are going to be using this Mixon 8 Pro with turntables, you need to have them plugged in to channel 1 or 2. And just to say about the mixer as well, this is DVS compatible, it's DVS ready, and it's actually got the Algoriddim DVS license hardware unlock, so you can use this ready to go with Algoriddim DJ DVS. If you want to use it with Serato DVS, you can, but you need to pay for the Serato DVS upgrade. Also, a nice touch about this Mixon 8 actually is that You've got a stereo mono switch here, so if you do want to be playing out in mono, you know, you can flick it, and you don't see that very often on DJ controllers, to be fair. And then, right, so the middle section of the mixer here, this is where all your volume control is, with your master volume, your booth, your headphone volume, and your Q mix, so whether or not you're listening to the master or the Q. Under there, you've got the sampler volume, which is, I mentioned earlier, is a great touch. Now, the browsing knob here, this is a bit of a weird one actually, because normally the browsing knob is up the top, and obviously, you know, you use it to filter through your tunes. Now, you can see here, this is browsing through the Algoriddim app on this phone. What you can't see is it's actually browsing through my Serato library at the same time. So if you are going back to back with another DJ and you're browsing and then you click to load, it's gonna load, you know, I don't know what it's gonna load, to be fair. I don't want to press it, but in case it loads something random. But what I would say is, if you are going back to back, go with the manual loading, you know, like that on your laptop, or literally hands-on on your iPad or whatever. So yeah, I mean, you know, the loading knob is great, it's nice and big, but yeah, it's not in your typical place, and yeah, it can get a bit complicated when you're using two different softwares. Moving down here, this is your back button within your software. As you can see there, I'm sort of, you know, I'm darting through all the different genres there. And then under here, you've got Q split, which is, you know, again, really, really cool feature to have on a DJ controller, as that's more seen on sort of high-end mixers. Going down to the crossfader, nothing sort of special about the crossfader. You know, it's your kind of standard crossfader, but you can obviously replace this and put in a better crossfader if you would prefer. A nice touch about the crossfader though is that there is a dedicated crossfader curve knob on the front of the controller, where you can change it from more of a blend to more of a cut. Also on the front of the controller, the headphone inputs, you've got a 3.5mm and the 1/4 inch jack. So talking a bit more about the inputs and outputs on this Mixon 8, this does have two microphone inputs, but they are dedicated to two of the channels. So there's no sort of microphone section on this controller. This has got pros and cons. The pros being that because it's assigned to one of the channels, by the way, are 3 and 4. So if you've got two mics in, that's where they're going. The pros of this is, if you've got a microphone in to a channel, of course, the filter works. You can assign the effects, the software effects to the microphone. Not, as I mentioned earlier, no built-in effects on this controller. So you can't sort of assign effects if you haven't got this plugged in to any software. But yeah, you can EQ it, you know, if you can take the bass down on the microphone or whatever. So that is a bonus of having it assigned to a channel. Of course, the cons is that if you can't go 4-deck mixing and two microphones at the same time, you know, you're always going to lose one of the channels when you're using this controller with a microphone. Input wise about the mics, by the way, microphone 1 input is on the back here, and it's a Combi XLR, and microphone 2 is on the front of the controller, which is a 1/4 inch jack. A nice feature about having the mic though is that it does go through the software when you're using it. So that means if you're using this streaming, or you know, for a radio show, or you want to record a microphone in your mix, and you're recording the mix within the software that you're using, it will pick that up. Furthermore, on the inputs and outputs, the outputs on this Mixon 8, you've got XLR master out and RCA master out, and then there's a 1/4 inch TRS booth out as well. Now, power to this Mixon 8, this does take a power brick, which no one's a fan of a power brick when it comes to a controller, really. Like, you know, if you leave it at home, if you're taking this to a gig and you leave it at home, it's a bit of a nightmare to try and find the same one to plug in at the venue. Or if it breaks, you know, you have to get this specific one to replace it or whatever. I much prefer an IEC, but it's not uncommon with DJ controllers. And, you know, overall, the build quality of this Mixon 8 Pro is decent. It's not that heavy, it's not that big. So it's very portable, but there's a lot of space on it. Like, it's not cramped up or all squished together or anything like that. And it's got a metal faceplate, so you know, it's sturdy. The only thing sort of about it being not the build quality of it, but when you've got an iPad in here, you can't move the iPad up and down, and I think that might be a little bit dangerous if, you know, somebody lent on it or whatever it's done. I don't know. But yeah, in terms of like the overall build quality of this controller, it definitely gets a thumbs up from me. Also, it sounds great as well. It's 24-bit sound, you know, it definitely be good enough to play to in a club, on a club system, or high quality speakers, but at the same time, you know, great for at-home studio monitors too. So let's conclude this then. The Mixon 8 Pro, I think that this is a fantastic controller. As I said, this is definitely the best controller on the market by a very, very long way if you mix with Algoriddim Djay. I've got to say, big up to Reloop for sticking by, you know, the controller layout. There are DJs out there that swear by this. This is their bread and butter. This is how they like their DJ controllers laid out, like a DJ controller, not like a club sort of setup. I would say that this is a fantastic controller for both bedroom DJs and mobile DJs. The fact that it works with Serato and Algoriddim, and even if you are primarily a Serato user, as I said earlier, no brainer, get Algoriddim on your phone as a backup, or even have a play with it on Algoriddim. You know, the neural mix features and all the stuff that Algoriddim does, I'm talking about the Algoriddim Djay app, the stuff that does within the app, it's such a powerful DJ software, and it's worth looking into if you haven't done already. So anyway, gang, I am going to leave it there. Look, let me know in the comments section, what do you think of this Mixon 8 Pro? Do you have one? Have you played on one? But what I really want to hear actually is, what do you think of the layout on this controller? Do you like the mirrored layout? Do you prefer the club style layout? Also, how many of you use the Algoriddim Djay app? You know, I think, like I said, I think a lot of the watchers of this channel are Serato users. I'd be really, really keen to know how many of you are primarily using the Algoriddim Djay app to mix on. So guys, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the DJKIT YouTube channel. And of course, share this with anyone who you think might find it useful. Look, I'm going to leave it there. Until next time, you take care. Peace.